Hello friends, it's Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. Today I'm here with a reading vlog. Who knew? Let's jump right into it. I caved and bought a book I had no business buying because I don't have time to read it right now, but I'm going to. I'm in the middle of editing book 2 and in no way, shape, or form should be starting an immersive experience of a book. My reading in 2021 has been limited and I haven't been reading a ton. So I figured I really wanted to read books that I knew I was going to love. And coming into the end of the year, I knew I only had time for about maybe 1 or 2 more books. I decided to make it one that matters. So I decided that I was going to read S by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. Am I crazy? Maybe I am. But this one has been talked about a lot as a book with a lot of multimedia facets, and it has been compared to House of Leaves a lot. I don't know that it's as mind-bendy as House of Leaves. I think the structure of the book and the storytelling formats are similar enough that I think I'm going to really enjoy it. So let me give you just a synopsis about this book. In this, we follow a book that is called Ship of Theseus, which is the book that we have. This book is one that has been really talked about in this world that this book exists in. A man is writing his thesis, his master's thesis, on the book itself, and inside of the book is annotating it. Then somebody else finds his book and starts annotating it. They start conversations through the annotations about the book. And I believe when the man who gets this book for his thesis gets it, there's already annotations in there from a while back. So there's the original story inside the book and then a timeline shift between annotations that happened in the past and then the 2 annotations that are happening in present as these people share this book back and forth. I'm just going to read the back cover because I think that might sum it up a little bit better. But 1 book, 2 readers, a world of mystery, menace, and desire. A young woman picks up a book left behind by a stranger. Inside it are his margin notes, which reveal a reader entranced by a story and by its mysterious author. She responds with notes of her own, leaving the book for the stranger, and so begins an unlikely conversation that plunges them both into the unknown. The book is The Ship of Theseus, the final novel by a prolific but enigmatic writer named V.M. Straka, in which a man with no past is shanghaied onto a very strange ship with a monstrous crew and launched into a disorienting and perilous journey. The writer, Straka, the incendiary and secretive subject of one of the world's greatest mysteries, a revolutionary about whom the world knows nothing apart from the words he wrote and the rumors that swirl around him. It was conceived by J.J. Abrams, written by Doug Dorst. It's a chronicle of 2 readers finding each other in the margins of a book and enmeshing them in a deadly struggle between forces they don't understand. It was a pricey book. I am excited to have it. I have a library stamp on here. In the back of it, we even have where it looks like library people have checked it out. There's a decoder wheel in here. If you can tell from the side view of this, there is stuff all throughout this book. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. It's not anything new. It says book for loan on here. And we start off before the book even starts in the foreword with the annotations of the 2 people. I'm pretty effing excited about this. So we have underlines and annotations and different quotes or margin notes, and then inside of it are papers and things that come out and more papers that come out. I don't really know. Postcards. So more postcards. There's something kind of everywhere in this. Having now published a book and knowing the printing cost for this cost so much money to make, so I'm not surprised that it costs $45. I didn't get it for $45. I got it a little less than that, but still. There's apparently a lot of different ways to read this. You can read this, the actual physical book of The Ship of Theseus, all the way through, and then go back and read just the annotations. You can read each page with the actual story and the annotations, which I think is how I'm going to do it. I am buddy reading this with Amber. This first letter is not in English, but then there's a second page that has the translation. But is it translated correctly? Is all of it translated? So now I have to translate the original to make sure the translation is actually accurate. Otherwise, we could be missing information. Because that's my House of Leaves brain. No, I have to look a step deeper than what you think you need to look at. I'm going to tackle this. and I'm going to take you along with me, because while I have seen a lot of people hauling this book, I think most notably Natasha from My Reading is Odd has hauled this like forever ago. I've never actually seen anybody read it and discuss it, which is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to end my 2021, is tackling this book, which I kid you not smells like an old library book. Like, they scented the pages with like that old dusty book smell, but without the allergens, which I appreciate. It's kind of wild. I don't know how often I'm going to update you. Will it be spoilery? Probs. I don't really know if there's a way to discuss this without spoilers, but I'll try to like put up a spoiler thing whenever there is a spoiler. I'm intimidated and excited in the best possible ways. It has taken me the better part of an hour to get through the foreword, the translator's notes. But I do have a little bit more clarification. So this is a book by an author, translated with footnotes from a translator, annotated by a man who's doing his thesis on the book, as well as an undergrad who finds the book. But they annotated on three different timelines. Annotations from the man when he's working on his thesis. There's annotations from the woman and the man as they start talking about it. And then there's annotations from the man and the woman in the future after the initial set of annotations from them. So the man annotates it 3 times. The woman annotates it twice. And the translator reads it and puts footnotes. They're annotating it after they've already read it. So like they understand things as a reader you don't understand yet. And I'm already intrigued. It's very House of Leavesy. I cannot even count the number of what the fucks that I have audibly mumbled tonight. A couple things confirmed that maybe I had like theorized the night before. So like every day I'm kind of like writing down my thoughts. So day 1, theory, FX is VMS's son. All references to sons, all that kind of stuff, like, is because the translator is the author's son, is what my theory was, day 1. Also that he was his own publisher. Because I can't see anybody, like, tolerating this guy. And then how could one man write in so many languages and one translator translate, like, sufficiently in this many languages? S has amnesia. I don't understand the ship. I don't understand the pirates. I don't understand the purpose of the mouth sewing, and it really grosses me out. Sola had been mentioned prior, I think yesterday, and I had no idea who Sola was, so now I've met Sola. But this chick was just chilling in a dress, reading a book, completely unbothered, in a bar full of rowdy drunk sailors. I don't understand anything. Like, I think the first instance, unless I'm like reading it wrong, which I really might be, of like something in the book, pseudonym, like pen name, like different things for the author, have actually showed up on like records of ships, like passenger logs, and one of them is a woman. Like it's not the man's name, but it's like a woman's name that's close enough to the same initials. Maybe it's the translator's mom or Straka's wife. Really understand anything. And then like weird stuff are happening with Jen and Eric. Like Eric refuses to meet Jen, which is shady in and of itself. And she continues to ask and he continues to deny it. He's getting money from this like random organization that doesn't even have like an active website that he's never heard of, but they're just giving him money to fund his research, which seems super hella shady. These 2 students are about, like, one already got kicked out of school. The girl, Jen, is now, there's hints that she's going to have a trial and is seemingly in trouble with the school and about to get kicked out as well. I would never lose my career as a student or at my degree over a book. That would be like me getting lost in House of Leaves, studying it for my thesis, and then like getting kicked out of school over it. Like, not gonna happen. Jen putting up with this, like, it mirrors Straka and the translator. Like, she keeps questioning, like, why would the translator stay with him? It doesn't make any sense. Why is she so loyal? Jen continues to ask Eric questions and he continues to evade. She continues to ask him to meet up with her and he continues to not do it. But she stays, which is very reminiscent of the same relationship that the author was supposedly supposed to have with the translator. And then there's decoding of different messages that they're finding out, which I appreciate, because House of Leaves, you've got to do the research. Now, you've got other people doing it for you, and they seem to be, like, finding everything. I'm not finding anything that they're not. So it's basically like if somebody had my book with all the annotations for House of Leaves, decoding things, and they didn't have to do it themselves, which is beautiful. So like right now, I really like that aspect, but like I'm so confused. But I have theories and I'm enjoying myself. But like day 2, page 44. It is day 3 update for S. We've read so many hours and I think I'm on page 88. There's such like a repetition in word use in the actual novel, like descriptions of real people in the book that pertain to people that the author is hypothesized to have known. There's all of these like weird different links that have me wondering if some of the like wild claims that people made about him aren't true. And at this point, my latest hypothesis and like theory is the author was a spy, the author died. The wife picked up the book and wrote Ship of Theseus as clues to people he worked with to continue his work. So like the whole Ship of Theseus thing, like there's a whole pirate scene with the actual Ship of Theseus where like they're refreshing and rebuilding different parts of their ship. But also it would fit in a story context if some of it was his and then some of it was hers. I really don't know. I don't know. And my brain hurts and I don't know. I'm really weirded out by what's happening in like the actual timeline, like the present timeline. One of the present timelines with Jen and Eric though. I have thoughts and feelings about their relationship and about the people that are like funding Eric, which is shady. The pencil annotations from the first read through or the first read throughs when this kid was like 15, he's like, well, those are like from when I was 15. I don't remember what I was thinking. And I'm like, dude, no 15-year-old talks like this. And he seems to be like reaching to find meaning in like words that I don't see being there. Yelling at Jen, who's actually finding proof and facts at like national history museums. And he's like, well, you can't just hypothesize. You know, everything has to be based in fact or else we lose our credibility or I lose my credibility. And I'm like, dude, you're literally reaching all the time. And she's telling you she's finding like actual physical proof from like actual legal documents. And you're like, well, I don't know. It makes me feel some kind of way. I don't know. There seems to be like an understanding between the two of them that the person that is now doing the footnotes is a woman. I'm hypothesizing that if FX is the son of Straka, that perhaps instead of the son of Straka, it's the wife of Straka, or it's the son and the mother. I don't really know. And I'm going to be so pissed if we get to the end of this thing and there are no answers. I'm going to be so pissed. I don't really understand anything that's happening. I'm enjoying the mixed media, but the thing about the mixed media in this one is that all these inserts don't necessarily come at the same time that they're discussed. Some of them do, some of them do, some of them do not. Annotations about future events in the book prior to them happening make it really difficult to add context to names. We were just given a whole theory about like 4 different guys and who might be Straka and who might have gone after him and who his enemies might be. But we've been hearing those names for a little while with no context. So they'd been mentioned in footnotes and like in conversation between Jen and Eric for a while, but we had no context for who they were. Now you've got to go back and look at all these different footnotes or annotations to figure out what the context is for these people. It's frustrating, but interesting. It's a unique storytelling idea, and I get it, and it works. It works, but it is a little bit maddening. I have a feeling, or Amber had a theory too, that it may be because she was stealing papers. She had a paper due and she asked basically, he's like, you better get working on it. And she was like, well, do you have an old one? He said that he had taken that class and written that paper. And she's like, well, do you have like a copy that I could look at to write my own? Except the TA in her class was in class with Eric. They had like a thing, maybe. I have a feeling she copied a paper from him, got called for plagiarism by the TA who knew the guy who originally wrote it and now is up under academic review. Feels like a book I'm going to want to reread like 5 times. I'm going to want to read just the story, just the pencil annotations, just the blue and black annotations, just the green and orange annotations, just the purple and red annotations, and then just the annotations from when they're together and they're both in black. And then like just read it all those different ways. Do with that what you will, you know. Am I recommending it at this point? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think this is going to be a book that everybody enjoys. I think this is a very specialized, specific book that meets my taste. Not going to be for everybody. 10 out of 10. If you enjoyed losing yourself in House of Leaves and really diving deep into like the conspiracy and the theories and all the little footnotes, then yes. If not, do not do this. Last night was a rough one. It was not the easiest reading. Progress. Amber and I are taking chunks and just buddy reading. At some point I just stopped and like redid my shelves. We got from page 88 to 132. we're definitely getting like further into the relationship between Jen and Eric. We're definitely getting further into the conspiracy theories of the book versus real life and real people. All of these different people started coming into play, like all of these different people. I don't care about any of them, and I don't understand the context or importance of any of them, and I am feeling really, really lost about who everybody is in like a real life context versus like a book context and what it means for everybody. Coding of the annotations and the footnotes is interesting. It definitely makes it seem like there is a code hidden in the book for people to look at that would lead the reader to believe that this is some kind of like a guidebook or like manifesto and hints for people who are doing this kind of like government spy kind of revolutionary rebel stuff. The list of things that he's been accused of doing, S has been accused of doing, is very extensive. Betrayal of military and state secrets in the US, UK, France, USSR, Germany, Egypt, and Spain. Kidnapping in like multiple different countries. Libel and slander of multiple different people's names. He's been accused of bombings, assassination attempts of Mussolini, murders, like straight murders of a king and a queen, somebody, management at the Bouchard factory, somebody in France, like Warren G. Harding. Like, I don't understand. We have like an extensive annotation list of everything he's been accused of. The writing style of the book has really shifted from like a more fantasy-based, really gripping story when he was like on this pirate ship to like very mundane, and it doesn't make sense as a novel to have these giant shifts in story types. It just doesn't make sense. It goes from like a first person to an omniscient POV, like kind of out of nowhere at one point. So from like a literary standpoint, it doesn't make sense. It's very patched together in very strange ways. But I also just don't understand Jen and Eric's relationship at this point, because I don't understand why she's continuing to put up with him being unwilling to meet her, or some of his like emotional unavailability when it seems like she definitely wants him to be there for her. He's making just like stupid decisions. Like, I know he wants funding for this project, but he's accepting funding from people he has no idea who they are. They're flying him to Paris. They're doing all of this stuff. New York, Paris, and he's just accepting it without really questioning who it's coming from or why. I'm enjoying it as an experience, but I don't think at this point I'm enjoying the book. There's also an instance in that particular chunk of reading where S, like this symbol of S, is now referred to as the S, which makes me think it's an organization or a group of people and not just the symbol itself. Like, they've figured out what the meaning of the symbol is and it represents something larger, like the S. It's really difficult to talk about because I just don't understand anything that's happening. They were taking like names from the book and assigning them to real life people and then assuming that the author was this person, then that would mean that they were in trouble, but we don't even know who the author is. It's too much for my brain. We're at 45%, which I believe is page 203. And last night's reading went a lot better. The actual story of Ship of Theseus was a little bit more engaging. So we were able to get the message from this that basically he was following the trail of Philomena, who they believe at this point is FXC, think that she was in Brazil. So if she was still alive, she'd be incredibly old. They use these like bird watching analogies and words and codes because like a lot of the book has like bird watching aspects to it. So through this, we gather that he's like following word of her throughout the Brazil until they get to a place where he actually does find like cousins of hers and family of hers that are like really protective over where she is, but I think he gains their trust and he goes and sees her and she's not like all there anymore, but he is able to get some information from her. There's these like revelations from Eric and Jen in here in these like long letters to one another that just feel like, okay, whatever. Like character building, which is fine. My thought at this point is that they have named the S as this group of people in the book. Now, the hypothesis from these two is that the group of people in this book are supposed to be stand-ins for a group of writers. This group of writers would then, in the context of this book, probably be the S. What I can gather at this point is that the S probably all wrote books along the same vein with messages for some kinds of spy missions. I don't effing know. or they were wrongly accused of having spy missions in their books and being people that were, like, of interest. Because in the story, the group of people are being wrongfully chased down for, like, crimes they didn't commit. So it could be a parallel. At this point, we're assuming that S, this organization, this, like, symbol, is a group of people. The group of people are these authors that we already know about and the group of people in this book. But also that this mysterious woman that the character S is looking for throughout the book so far, Sola, would be Philomena or the narrator, right? We think they're the same person at this point. And because everybody had died except for the one that she loved, this S, posthumously, she wanted to write this book as a nod and as a message and as a code to basically say, these are the things that these authors did that nobody knew about, but, like, maybe they should. Because this old lady is in hiding. Like, super late in life. She old, and she is in hiding. A group of authors were the takedown fall guys for these crimes. The people that were perpetrating the crimes would want them shut up, right? Like, they keep having these falls and these accidents and dying. So they're obviously not wanting any of this information to come out. Now, in our margin timeline, Jen feels like she is 1000% being stalked, being like, there's weird things happening. There's fires in her hometown, fires at the hotel she's staying at, like weird things, people in her apartment, people looking through her mail. She's certain things are happening. They even mentioned at one point, like, there's nothing that ties us to one another except for this book. Like, why would you continue to allow the book to stay in that archive? Freaking take the book out and meet. Eric doesn't believe in cell phones, doesn't believe in email, doesn't believe in technology. I think at this point he might have a cell phone. They still haven't met, which is fucking weird. It's interesting. It's not quite the rabbit hole that House of Leaves is, because I know at some point they're going to answer all these questions I have for me. I don't have to do the work. House of Leaves, you have to do the work. This, you're going to eventually be told. It's just that you're in the dark for a while. It has been a minute. I actually think I have read 2 nights without updating you, mainly because there's not a ton to update. Both of the nights were a little bit of a struggle. We do have S back on the ship. Well, he's back on the ship and then he's off of it again. But it is kind of one of my favorite parts of the book, especially because the ship has these, like, time travel-y kind of, like, aspects to it where time passes differently on the ship than anywhere else. And there's still the kind of, like, mystery of what is actually going on this ship and fueling this ship, and it's definitely weird. But the stuff happening off of the ship, a lot less intriguing to me in terms of the original story of the Ship of Theseus. Solidly past the halfway point. I think we're like 65% of the way in. And we didn't read Sunday, Monday, or Thursday. We did read Tuesday and Wednesday, and we plan to read tonight. We are on page 282, so progress has been made. There's tabs in there. I'm taking notes. It's one of those weird things where I don't really have any new theories. I think it's pretty solidly established now that the S is an organization. It's a group of authors and writers and people that are trying to make social change. Also makes sense that he could, or they could potentially have, well, specifically S, I guess, is on this ship, right? And the fact that he's, like, in these different places in different times across such a span makes sense if he's on this ship where time acts differently than everywhere else. There's also this parallel still between FXC and S and their relationship, and, you know, the strangeness of the unrequitedness and the not ever meeting kind of a situation that parallels Jen and Eric, although in some of the annotations we are learning that they have met at this point. Whether or not there are still people that are after them for kind of decoding this is up in the air. I'm not 100% sure. Their paranoia is definitely building, which again runs parallels to House of Leaves. At this point, I'm just kind of along for the ride, and I know that they're gonna uncover things for us. We've kind of run through every, like, little bonus in the book. Some of the stuff just we're taking out as we go through, because there are websites that tell you what page everything goes on, and for a lot of it doesn't matter. And for a lot of it, it's almost better if you look at it out of sequence. Some of it kind of need to wait for. So there's, I think, 2 letters, like 2 more things that are in here. Their relationship and their theories on the book are definitely growing as we go through the book as well, which at least keeps the pace and the pages turning. and I don't mind it, but I'm finding myself not enjoying the story of the Ship of Theseus as much as I am the other aspects of the book. It's an interesting experience. It's not nearly as intimidating as I thought it was going to be. Yeah, it's a good stepping stone into like a House of Leaves. We read about 100 pages and we have about 100 pages left. So we're right here. I don't know. I feel like unlike other nights, I finally am at a place where like I'm comfortable saying that I have other theories. We were laughing at like our early theories where we're like, I think that the translator and the footnote writer is the son of the author. No, they're not. At least the character in the book is an assassin, and that members of their guild are being killed off. So we are assuming at this point that Straka is a part of a writer's guild that is also assassins, and that slowly they're being killed off, and that there's a larger group that they're like up against that maybe isn't too excited that Eric and Jen are looking into them like this. I don't know why or how these writers, but like it seems like the ship is a metaphor for the S, and how like as members die, new members come on, and there's like the old S, the new S, the new S, and all the members that were originally around when Straka are not anymore. But it's kind of like the organization itself is the Ship of Theseus, and so it kind of feels like the ship is just the S. I'm starting to question, and I always have questioned, how kind of like shady Eric has been about not wanting to meet. However, I never really looked at how super shady Jen is. She picks this book up, and the first thing she says, hey, I found your stuff while I was shelving. It looks like you left in a hurry. Felt bad about keeping the book from you, though since you obviously need it for your work, have to get my own copy. If you like it, you should finish it. I need a break anyway. Leave it on the last shelf in the south stacks when you're finished. Thanks, read the whole thing in one sitting. Wow. Haven't liked a book like this in a long time, and I'm a lit major. Loved all the mystery and the book, Straka, all of it. I really needed an escape. Dear undergrad, if you thought this was an escape, then you weren't reading closely enough. And she's like, Dear Arrogant, I made some notes in the margins that you can see how closely I read. And she's basically like, don't bother leaving it for me again. Good luck with your work. Oh, and by the way, you totally missed something important about the translator. You found the book, you read the book, right, in like a day. And then you're going to say like, oh, by the way, don't bother leaving it for me, but you missed something huge. Like, I know this is for your master thesis, like you missed something huge. She subsequently reads like all of the author's other works very quickly and understands things very quickly. So I'm starting to think that Jen is the plant. And she has all of this like suspicion and paranoia and I'm failing out of this class, I'm failing out of that class. These people are watching me. I feel like somebody's been in my apartment. But Eric has no proof of that other than her word. And I'm starting to feel like Jen is the one trying to smoke him out. Is that going to be valid at the end of things? I don't know. And I'm getting frustrated too because a lot of the add-ons, like the letters where I'm like, oh my gosh, there's going to be these huge reveals. There's going to be this, there's going to be that. They're just like personal, like, I lied. When I ran away, I didn't run away. It wasn't an accident. I ran away on purpose, and I this and I that. And when I went sailing with my uncle, I didn't just get off the boat. I got off the boat and then he crashed and died. And it's like, you were children. I don't see the bearing to the story. I don't know. I'm frustrated. The actual book, The Ship of Theseus, is starting to just annoy the fuck out of me. I'm over it, but I'm reading it because I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to half-ass read it, but also I'm over it. So we've got 100 pages left. I'm not enjoying it still. However, I'm not having a great time. At least right now, do not see the hype for this book. I'm done. It's not even 10 o'clock on Saturday night, and I'm officially finished. I didn't love it. I wanted to. I had high hopes for it. I'm left feeling like there's a lot of things that were like unexplained, that were open-ended. First of all, Jen and Eric are rather unlikable. You learn throughout the book that like the annotations that they're making, even if they're in the same colors, which is like the same timeline, they don't go chronologically through the book. So like there might be annotations in blue and black that are later in the book but are actually earlier in timeline, or I think I saw that the most with the red and purple timeline, but like regardless, it's not linear. It's a little bit confusing, and I just don't feel like we got enough answers for a book that kind of claimed the whole way through that they were going to give them to you. Like the actual Ship of Theseus book was not intriguing. It was a very toxic relationship between Jen and Eric. I don't care for it. I don't really think that the things that make this book special, like all the things that were added into the book, I don't really think they do very much for the story at all. I think it's something extra. It definitely ups the cost of like the production of this book, but it doesn't actually do anything for the story or the experience, yes, but for the actual story itself, it doesn't really provide much substance. Old book smell has definitely faded as I've read this. I mean, in the long run, neither Jen nor Eric betrayed one another or were like double agents or anything like that. And after like everything, they just kind of like run off to Prague. It like becomes evident at one point that like their annotations when they're together are not at the college, like they've left. So yeah, after fighting and fighting and fighting to be able to graduate, she leaves before graduation. We're not even really sure if she graduated. She's assuming she did. A lot of the things that you're unsure about, like were people really after her? What really happened? We don't really get answers for. Did Moody ever get, what was coming to him for stealing what Eric had? We never really get answers for that. At some point, Ilsa turns on Moody. We never really find out why or what happened or what motivated that. Like, it's just a lot of open-ended bullshittery. The open-endedness is only going to bother you if you cared. And I didn't really care about Eric and his backstory with Moody. I didn't particularly care about Eric and Jen as a couple. I am still curious about Saren and who they were and why they funded Eric. That's probably the biggest mystery in my mind. I don't like this book. I don't love that we have two women that kind of drop their whole lives for men with like no intentions of being able to requite their love. And I don't love the fact that Philomena and Straka had this like ill-fated love and that Jen and Eric are supposed to be their redemption when I don't think either one of those couples are particular. Like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I'm not here for it. I don't ship it. Get it? Here's the deal. It's a $45 book. For $45, you're getting a book, and a lot of the money is because you get all these really cool inserts, except if you took all the inserts out, you'd have the same exact reading experience as you would without them. The inserts don't add anything to the story. Everything that's in those inserts that you might be able to see or ascertain for yourself are talked about in the books, in the margins, in the footnotes. You do not actually need to see these things to know they happened. You're not really learning anything from it. It's just a way to have an experience, but it's not necessary. I don't think it's worth $45, and I think that this is probably one of the most pretentious books I've ever read. It's very like highbrow. Well, if you replace all of these members, is it the same organization? If you replace all these different parts of yourself, are you the same person? If we get it. We get it. The letters that we get from Eric and from Jen that are supposed to give us insights into like their traumas of their past are not endearing. Like, they do not help you care about the characters. I just will never read this book again. I don't care about the original story, and I don't care about the characters enough to go back and read their annotations and follow their story. I am like beyond aggravated that Jen throws away pretty much her entire college career and has to then like scrape it back up from the floor because she lost herself with somebody else's work. For a man who was a disgraced master's student, and instead of moving on and finding something else to do or using his bachelor's to just go move on with life, just sat around campus, did nothing, and waited for an undergrad to come and then do all the work for him. And then she goes, yeah, I'm fine with this. Leaves her entire life behind to run away with him so they can write a book together. Is that the happy ending that Philomena should have had with Straka? Because it doesn't seem like it is. I think the idea of having an original story and then these annotations and different timelines of annotations is a brilliant storytelling mechanism that failed in the execution. And oh my God, do not get me started on the fact that they annotate, they underline and bracket and highlight things, and then they write their notes in the margin, and the notes in the margin are purely just conversation between the two of them. Conversation between the two of them. You know what you could have done? Could have just written in the margins. You didn't have to take pieces of the text and make it seem like it meant something. They take pieces of the text and then write something completely unrelated. Like, oh, hey, did I mention that I got this email? Or, hey, did I mention I'm under, like, academic review? But, like, bracket it to a part of the text that has nothing to do with that. Like, it is not at all meaningful. Like, they couldn't even get how to annotate correctly. Drives me batty. There were times in House of Leaves where I forgot I was here. Like, I was so in the story and in that moment and in the fear and in the anxiety and in the claustrophobia that I stopped being here and I was in the story. At no time during S was I in another world. I was very aware that I was reading. I was frustrated with the story. I was frustrated with the characters. I was just kind of pushing to get through pages. I was pushing to get through the end of the book. I'm so pissed because in theory, the way that this story was crafted should have worked for me. So I'm going to pin my hopes on the lovely story that is Cain's Jawbone. We're going to go Cain's Jawbone in 2022. This book is a tearaway book. So it's a murder mystery with 6 murders and 6 murderers. And the book is printed completely out of order, completely haphazardly. So what I have is a binder with sheet protectors, and you rip out all the pages to the story, put them in the binder, or on a wall. Some people have murder walls. I'm not going to do it because I don't have enough wall space, so I will be doing mine in a binder where I can move the pages around. And you basically have to figure out the order of the pages and then pair up who murdered who, like write down the order of the book by the order of the pages. Because there's numbers on every page, but it's the number that it was printed in the book, not necessarily the order. So you've got to like mail in to see if you got it right. And only 3 people have gotten it right in the history of the book. I have a pocket full of sticky tabs. I've got all my page protectors here ready to roll. And this is going to be my big immersive book for 2022. So I started off the year with a reread of House of Leaves, which I love. Ended the year with S, which I did not love. And 2022 will be the year of Cain's Jawbone. And we're going to see if I can solve some murders. I don't think I will. I don't fancy myself somebody who will understand and be able to decode this. But I'm going to try. And I do think it's going to be fun because I do think it's going to be immersive. I do think it's going to like make me use my brain, and I'm hoping to enjoy it. And from what I understand, this is like a very long project. I'm looking forward to working on it slowly throughout the year. So if you are interested in an immersive reading experience and you would like to have a murder board or a murder folder and figure out some stuff with me, feel free to go ahead and order that. It's currently out of stock on Amazon and back ordered on Barnes & Noble, but they are printing more and getting it back out. And you have until the end of 2022 to write into the publisher and let them know your theories. I think they're only guaranteeing that they're going to answer a yes or no about whether or not you got it right up until the end of 2022. So I've got just this next year to get it all right. That's going to be my next project. I am disappointed by S. Forever in love with House of Leaves. Welcome any kind of discussions about it down in the comments below. It's a thing I can say I took on. If you were considering reading S and you were like, I don't think I could do it, it's too intimidating, there's all these things, it's all, go ahead and read it. You're going to be fine. It's really not that bad. There's nothing really like confusing about it. It's just frustrating. Definitely a book written by dudes. I can see a lot of dudes loving this book. I don't like it. That's going to be it for this reading vlog. Thanks for coming along with me. I really thought this was going to be a much different vlog. I thought we were going to love this experience and I was going to be able to share something else with you. If you read it and you have a different opinion, let me know in a comment down below. I would love to talk about it. I'd love to talk about your theories. If you want to discuss it further, I am always available in the comments down below. But that's going to be it for this reading vlog. If you liked it, give me a big thumbs up, click subscribe, and I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.